Welcome everybody to Bugbears and Brews. I'm Brian, and tonight we're recapping our finale of our Storm King Thunder campaign that we played this Wednesday. And I am drinking a watermelon mojito. I don't know quite the technical term for it, and it's where you use watermelon versus mint for a mojito. First time trying it, and it's freaking delicious. No, it's not beer, but there's still just too much left over rum to not drink it. So I will start out by saying we had 4 players versus the 6, so I was kind of bummed about that, and I was debating whether or not holding off or not, but then Jose was going to be out another week, and we want to start moving on to another campaign here in a little bit and doing a little bit of table switch up, so I was like, you know what, let's just go through with it and move forward. So it started out with you guys getting to that secret elf hiding home. You found a little crevice or ravine within the plains there, and it had a little path down that you had to go back and forth between walking on a narrow path and then climbing down the rocks. And luckily, due to you guys having Grimlock, who has no fear of heights or falling or anything like that, and having a buttload of rope, you guys were able to navigate that cliffside pretty easily. Once you got down to the bottom, it opened up into... didn't open up, stop lying, Brian. You then followed it around and you found another crack that went into the wall, and you followed that a little bit, and eventually that opened up into a larger area. And as you guys were sneaking stealthily, Havoc included, sneaking your way through the ravine there, you guys came, when you came to this area, there was a gentleman looking around in the open cavern back to you guys, so he didn't really notice you. And you notice him immediately as the gentleman with the shaved head and all sorts of the black travel tattoos on him. And immediately you guys start thinking, like, what the hell are we going to do? Just start game planning. Now that you guys know, like, hey, you guys have X amount of time, real time, to figure out what's going on. And the time passed, and you guys were still kind of hemming and hawing. And so what happened instead was, instead of you guys doing your plan or whatever, Varus, who was ran by me as an NPC at this point, Inigo and Varus were both ran by me as NPCs in this because both those players were missing. Varus, this guy, taking down his entire clan, tribe, whatever you want to call it, just said screw it and charged right at the guy. Wound up missing and then getting taken down immediately into combat by a pretty massive combo there. Damn, that's good. From there, combat started out. It wasn't just the man with the black tattoos by himself, though. He summoned a couple of those fiends that you guys dealt with way back with Eleni as well. And from there, a couple people started working on, or distracting the fiends. A couple people started focusing in on the man with black tattoos. But not too long into combat, Rondi's like, hey, you know what? You think I'm on your team. However, I'm not so sure about this. I'm going to pull out this spike that's been in my neck that's, you know, been kind of given this link there. And Rondi was getting ready to reach back and get it, and then Pavik was right behind him, and Pavik just grabbed it, yanked the spike out, and Jose was really happy. That's really what it boiled down to. But that allowed Rondi to act fully as, you know, as his own player without any bad juju coming in through me. Inigo, seeing that, he himself also pulled out his spike, and so that gave him full abilities there for him as well. Now, Inigo, the way I did run Inigo was that he was too afraid still to take, you know, to attack the man with the black tattoos, and he was really irritable and not well rested, so I just left him up to cantrips and kind of like assist spells. Combat, the first combat was is dangerous. I will say that for having 4 people, I had to judge it and reel back some things I was planning on doing. I pulled some punches there because I don't like killing folks. That's not the game, and especially on the last combat, I don't want that to be a party wipe. So I reeled back a couple things. The fiends were supposed to have either 2 of the fireballs or 3 hits. So I cut one down to one fireball, and then the other one I only did 2 hits on a couple, 3 hits on a couple. I varied on how often I hit you, whether or not I did the 3rd hit there. So I'm not trying to pull punches, but I wanted to get through with this and, you know, have it be fun for everybody. You guys getting your asses kicked isn't fun, but I think it fulfilled its job with having you guys really have to use your resources. I think people blew a lot of spells. By the time we got down to the end of it, we were at, I think everybody was like 20 or below for the most part, minus Rondi. But that said, a couple of things that worked out really well was Thessalon went and set up a circle protection or something. I forget what the actual spell was that he used, but where he kept the fiends out from the area, and then fiends attacking anybody in the circle had disadvantage. So that worked out really well to keep the fiends at bay. Sadly, though, as you guys were focusing on the fiends and the man with the black tattoos, Eleni just happened to stroll in right behind you guys and went to absolutely annihilate Pavik. Luckily, Pavik had a good save and wound up only taking like 38 damage versus like the 76 or something like that Finger Death was going to do to him. So that's really nice. Right when that happened, though, the next thing that you guys did, I don't recall if it was Pavik or who. Was it Pavik or was it Grimok? I think it was Grimok, now that I think about it. Reached and grabbed the spike on the man with the black tattoo because Rondi announced that, hey, he's spiked as well. Pulled that out, and the man with the black tattoo immediately dropped due to mechanics that I had with the spike. Mechanic, which I mentioned behind the scenes, was if the spike E, whatever, had some sort of emotional trauma, recently the spike could be removed without issue, but if there wasn't any emotional trauma, like high emotions, pull out the spike, the person dies. During the combat, you guys tried to revivify Varys, and he immediately went down again. And so towards the end there, as Eleni was starting to lay into you guys pretty good, you guys revivify the man with the black tattoo and feeling like he's no longer spiked. He had to be spiked for a reason. Let's go ahead and figure out what's going on here. Maybe he'll help us out with Eleni. Realistically, he stabilized himself and moved against the wall, and that was about it. Eleni, when it was the fiends and her, you guys focused on her, and she went down relatively easy. She was hard to, she did a lot of damage, but she took a lot of damage as well. Once you guys got her dead, killed her, whatever. Yeah, killed her. That's the word I'm looking for. Once you guys killed her, she said, hey, this isn't over with. She turned into a pile of ash and blew away with the wind, even though it was in a ravine type deal there, and so there really shouldn't have been much wind. And the remaining fiend went away. Talking with the man in black tattoos, he is actually Gassian, the son of Eleni, and that they were trying to get a hold of elves because the elves sent you guys to go ahead and kill Eleni. Gassian was a little under control by her, really mixed emotions, not really sure what the hell to think. You guys were like, hey, we know the elves are in there, but we're not proceeding. We're going to go back out, take a rest, and figure out what's going on. He was like, no, I'm not resting. I'm going forward. I'm getting this done with. I'm not here to kill them like I originally was, but now that I know that we're here, I'm not backing off, because who knows when the hell Eleni's coming back. And so you guys were like, oh, screw it, we'll just take a long rest here. And that's when Eleni started yelling in the ravine saying, hey, I'm back, come out and play. So you guys, quickly did the secret passage type stuff that you found in the book there, the bad poetry book. Opened up the door. Belray and a contingent of elves were already at the door waiting for you guys with arrows bows and arrows in hand. Quickly closed it. You guys were like, hey, Belray, what the fuck's going on? And that's when Eleni started beating on the door. Door, wall, whatever you want to call it. Didn't get much conversation out before Eleni broke in, but the main thing that did happen was that the clerics that were nearby went ahead and healed you up to full. Not full on all of your resources and all that, but full of all your hit points. From there, Eleni broke down the door, and a flood of the fiends came in. And so even though there's all these elves going around, the elves were taking care, or, in combat with the fiends. Eleni, she looked much like herself, but you could tell she's radiating some sort of fierce aura. And immediately, she sticks her hand into the ground, and this big molten hand from the ceiling reaches down, or shoots down, and sprinkles all sorts of fiery brimstone in the area, just annihilating quite a bit of elves. And so you guys just started dashing off towards her, trying to get her locked down. Grimach eventually closed in with melee. Pavik went in melee, and Pavik found out, like, hey, she may be a sorceress-looking chick, warlock-looking chick, but she hit like a truck. I did manage to crit a couple times. I managed to pass quite a few saves. Poor Rondi kept on trying to get the rope of entanglement. I think I blew 2 of my legendary resistances on the rope of entanglement. One of the other legendary resistances I think was on one of Grimach's stuns. Really liked the use of legendary actions in the second part of the fight. Really kept you guys on the toes. A lot of different mitigation tactics going on there. Eventually, Thessalon said, you know what, cast silence on the area, kept her from casting spells, but she still seemed to be a pretty strong melee opponent there. So even though she couldn't cast spells, she was still walloping the crap out of those that were in melee range. Eventually, Grimach went down, but then, let's see, Grimach went down, Pavik then wound up, let's see, Grimach went down, and then the next hit, when Grimach was falling, she turned to hit Pavik. Yeah, that's right. She turned to hit Pavik and missed on a nat 1. And so I rolled the percentile dice, and the percentile came out 100%. And I rolled this in front of everybody because I 90% of the time I'm rolling in front of the screen because I don't like to fudge numbers. 100% on there, and like, what the hell do I do for this? So immediately I shut down the rest of her turn. And then a necklace that she was wearing hit the ground and smashed. And as it smashed, you guys started seeing all sorts of the Quaden, but they were kind of spirit-esque. So not the full-bodied Quaden, but the spirits of those Quaden. They started shooting out all over the place, and that caused an effect on the start of everybody's turn. Take a drink here. So, start of everybody's turn, you'd roll a d4, and then, depending on what you rolled, you had the option of burning a hit die as a bonus action to get back hit points, gaining a resource back using a bonus action, disengaging, or doing like a silent spell for free, because there was that section of what's it called? Silence around Eleni, or get a. Then the last one was another action, and surprisingly, there was quite a few fours rolled, which was another action. This was my way of kind of balancing a fight that I meant to be for 4 or 5 or 6 characters, balancing it out with 4, plus make up for that 100 on the roll there. So I thought you guys were kind of getting your asses handed to you. She really messed up big. Let's go ahead and bring in this. I don't want to say it's like a Deus Ex Machina type deal, but really helps shift the change of battle there, especially getting the extra actions. So eventually, though, as Eleni's getting down and close to death, she just says screw it and takes off running towards Thessalon. And this moment played out so great. And I saved this spell. She casts, running towards Thessalon, she casts Feeble Mind. Thessalon absolutely fails it, and so he is Charisma and Intelligence as 1 for 30 days. So he's just sitting there really dumbfounded, and his plan initially, he kind of talked with me behind the scenes a little bit, was he had this bottle that he was going to try to bottle Eleni up, because he could tell that his trickster god was really kind of jonesing for Eleni. And Eleni walked up to Thessalon, gave him a quick kiss, pulled out the bottle, opened it up, and then sucked both her and him into the bottle. And thus ends combat. Immediately all the other guys vanish, and that was really about the end of the game. I didn't go into any epilogue stuff because we're really close to time. Normally at the end of a campaign I do like a little epilogue, what all happened to everybody. So I'm going to do a recap, epilogue, whatever you want to call it. I'm probably going to record that tomorrow night or Sunday night. But that's where we ended up in the campaign, and that's where the campaign is going to end for now. From there, we're looking next season of jumping into something else. I kind of toyed around with the idea of continuing on with this campaign here, but people really want to play some different characters, and I've really been looking up to playing some different characters, so maybe I'll bring in some elements from this campaign here. But this is where the campaign officially ended. And like I said, I'll do a nice little epilogue thing, say here's what happened post, here's what we kind of found out, here's what your character went on to do, much like I've done in the past there. So I really liked this combat. I did. I thought it felt very climactic. I think I adjusted it pretty well for it being 4 players. I had adjustments because I balanced it for 6 and I had adjustments for 5, assuming that we had 1 person out, and then I didn't expect to have 2 people out. So having adjusted it down once more on the fly, I think I did a pretty good job with that. All in all, though, I had a lot of fun with this campaign, and I'm really looking forward to figuring out what we're going to do next. I have a couple ideas. Yeah, I don't want to ramble on, though. So I will talk to you guys here in a night or two as well to talk about the epilogue stuff. See ya. Bye.